Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It's time to plant the summer flower bed. This year, we're planting hibiscus and begonia. Also, we're answering viewer questions. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joellen Diamond. Joellen is the Director of Landscape at the University of Memphis.
Hello.
Hey Joellen, how you doing?
Good.
We're back out in our summer flower bed.
Yes, and we would have been doing this earlier, but because of the COVID-19, we were not able to get to the bed, so it's gotten a little bit further along, but doesn't it look good?
It does look good.
I am shocked at this Dusty Miller. This is going on the third year that we have this Dusty Miller in this bed, and I don't want to get rid of it because it still looks good. So we're just gonna, it's gotten uneven, so we're gonna trim it when we take out the plants. So that's the first thing we need to do when we change out. Now, these dianthus, you could plant them somewhere else. In this part of the country, they will actually live, because they've lived through the winter here, they will continue to live if you give them a partly sunny area. And they will, they'll live for a few more years if you want them. But we're going to treat them like annuals, like the rest of the country does, and we're going to pull them up and start again.
All right, this is always the hard part.
This is always the hard part.
Always the hard part.
They were nicely rooted. We're just going to trim these down to this size since this seems to be the shortest one. And I'm just looking at each stem and looking for a point of a leaf growth and cutting it up just above that. And trying to get it back to the same size as this other Dusty Miller. And the daffodils looks good too, but we got to get rid of all the old leaves.
You have a lot of tree seedlings, a lot of maples.
Yeah, we're next to a maple tree. And of course, they're blowing in from the woods.
All right.
All right. Well, you know what? The bed looks really good. It's fairly even. Looks nice and organic. There's still a little bit of mulch left. What we're going to do, I think, is put down some slow release fertilizer for our annuals, and then we'll place them and start planting.
Okay. Now, what are we planting this year?
We're going to do something. We have planted begonias before, but we're going to plant begonias again, and we're going to plant hibiscus, tropical hibiscus.
Tropical. Now, what's the difference? Tropical
hibiscus only lives in zone 9-10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the rest of us they die in the winter. They can't take cold weather.
Okay.
So they're not only going to be here through this summer.
Okay.
But we're hopefully planting red ones so that they will be in the back behind here. So we'll have the red, the white Dusty Miller, and then the pink begonias around it.
Oh, that's going to be nice.
Because these get quite bigger than a lot of the others, we're going to only have 5 of them planted back here.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
And we'll go ahead and plant these first.
Okay.
We'll take them out of the container. You squeeze the base of the container and they slip out. And you'll notice they're pretty root bound. So we're going to have to loosen these roots so they'll stop circling the container and want to then anchor themselves in the soil. So we'll just move them out.
It'll just tickle the roots a little bit.
Yeah.
Huh? Just a little bit.
Get them so they start growing out. What we'll do is scrape the mulch away that's there.
Okay.
Dig a hole. Loosen up the soil. soil is still nicely amended.
Yeah.
And place the plant in until it is about even with the soil surface. Put the soil back around it and just up to it. Try not to bury it too deep. It's calling for rain today. It would be nice. The soil is dry, so it'd be nice to have some rain on them. But the root balls are kind of dry too, so that's good. We're putting kind of somewhat dry plants into somewhat dry soil. As long as it's not wet roots going into dry soil, that's good because the dry soil would be sucking the moisture out of the roots. And next we're going to start planting begonias. We've got pink begonias to go with our red hibiscus and our white Dusty Miller. And so we'll start setting these out. Again, when they're in containers like this, squeeze the bottom of the container. And this will help the plants lift out.
Oh, there it goes.
There's so much soil in these that it goes over the top and they root together, so that's why it's real important to try to keep the root ball intact. These plants will probably get 8 to 10 inches across, so we want to space them, but there's only room for one row, so we want to space them about 8 inches apart so they'll be nice and full.
Okay.
I will continue to set them out like this because once you plant them, they can't be moved. It's easier to get your spacing if you lay them out first. Never pull them out, just gently squeeze the bottom of the container and they will eventually pop out. These are very pretty. They're pink, but they're also bronze leaf. There is green leaf varieties, but the bronze just brings a whole different color to the landscape, and they take sun better than the ones with green leaves. Now we can start
on those?
Yeah, we can start planting these. Okay, so we're gonna dig a hole in the bed and plant this to the depth of the top of this soil. You don't want to plant over it because you'll bury the crown of the plant. So plant just up to the top of the plant. I do know there's some spots that look like they could use a little bit of mulch. And I see we have some there. And normally we would mulch most of the bed, but it's pretty mulched, so
sure
I'm just going to put mulch down. Some of it and just... And that final little bit.
Okay.
There. Now it looks like it's got a little bit of fresh mulch with it. Well, since they're so dry, we decided to water them because we never know if we're going to get more rain or not, even though it is getting cloudy. So we thought we would gently water each one to make sure that it had water. This does two things. Not only does it give the soil around it some water and moisture, but it settles the roots and the soil together and gets rid of air pockets. And as much as we want air in the soil, too much air is just as detrimental to the plant. And as you put this water in the ground, you can see bubbles coming up, so you know you're removing the air pockets.
Right.
And I guess we will watch it grow throughout the season.
Can't wait to see what it looks like. This is always exciting, don't you think?
I like it, yes.
I do too. Thank you, Joelle.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about nutsedge. And as you can see here, we have plenty of it if you need some. Nutsedge is considered to be the world's worst weed. It likes moist conditions, but can also survive in drought-like conditions. Again, look at the moist conditions we have here, which is why we have so much of it. The distinct characteristic of nutsedge is this: it has a triangular stem. It actually reproduces by tubers, right? And as you can see here, there's a tuber, right? It's a nutlet that contains carbohydrates, which helps this weed to grow. So it's connected underground by this tuber or nutlet system. So if you pull it up and you break it off in the ground, you just made it mad, because it'll start to sprout out everywhere else. So again, this is nutsedge. If you want to try to control it, improve your drainage would be one thing that I would say do. That's a cultural practice. If you must use a chemical, which is the last resort, there's a couple that you can use. There's one product that contains the active ingredient halocepharon, and then there's another product called Image. Please read and follow the label. Good luck. All right, Jordan, here's our Q&A segment. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
All right. Good questions, too.
Yes.
Let's start with the first one.
Sure.
What's this growing in my front yard by the road? Should I dig it up and remove it? I have a lot of wildflowers, which I enjoy in my yard, so wasn't sure. Thank you. And this is Deborah from Shoddy Daisy, Tennessee. I like that name.
Yeah, nice
Shoddy
name.
Daisy, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
So ID. He's talking about plant ID. What do we think that is?
Well, it looks like an aster of some kind.
That's what I think that is.
And I don't know which kind. She might want to leave it and see if it is one of her wildflower asters, or she can move it, or, I mean, I don't know if it's in a place where she's planted other, wildflowers or not. So it's hard to tell, but there is a buckthorn plantain
Right next to it.
Next to it. So
Which I think I noticed first.
Yeah.
It's right next to it.
I don't think she thinks that. I don't think that's one of her wildflowers, but the aster might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not large enough yet to tell.
Yeah, I would recommend just let it stay there and let it flower, and so we can, see.
See, yeah.
And maybe that would give us a more positive idea what that aster may be, because I
Sure.
do think it's an aster.
Yeah.
I just don't know which kind it is.
Right.
All right. And then for that buckhorn, well, weeds are wildflowers.
Yeah, true.
So, all right. So there you go, Ms. Deborah. Thank you for that question. All right, here's our next viewer email. I have a hardy hibiscus plum fantasy that I have in a full sun location. This is the 4th season since planting it. Every summer it has multiplied and gotten up to 6 feet tall. This year I only have 2 new stalks coming from the base. Why does my hibiscus not have as many stalks this year as in years past? Can you give me any suggestions? And this is Kurt in Bartlett, Tennessee. So why not the stalks this year, right? Why not so many as in years past?
My thought is that in November we had very single teen digit temperatures. I mean, nothing got to harden off. And so the carbohydrate reserves that were in the leaves that were trying to, if it had been a normal temperature, would have gone down into the roots, and so it would have more strength to come back. Well, at least it got 2 of them. And what I say is, it's a beautiful hibiscus. Fertilize, keep it watered, take care of it this summer. The more carbohydrates you can get it to be able to put it into the root system again, the better it's going to be. So I think she's fine, but that's probably the reason why is this freeze last November that really took all of the plant world by surprise.
Yeah, so my first thought went straight to that freeze that we had in November. And then of course there was another one in April.
Yes.
So it's the double whammy.
Yeah.
So yeah, those carbohydrates didn't have a chance to get down into the root system, so couldn't save all of them.
No.
So maybe it'll come back for them, but just be patient.
Yeah, and just keep fertilizing
keep
it
fertilizing.
and watering it during the growing season and build it up, and it hopefully will do better next year.
Hope it does. All right, hope that helps you out. Kurt, thank you for that question. Here's our next viewer email. I have a vine that's taking over areas in my backyard. What is this and how do I get rid of it? It's Lisa in Rossville, Tennessee. We know what that vine is, don't we? I think a lot of people might know what that vine is.
Yeah, Vinca minor.
Vinca minor.
And it's a ground cover. It's probably was planted originally to blanket the area, and obviously it has. She doesn't like it, and she's gonna have to get rid of it.
Yeah, it can get away from you pretty quick though.
Because rhizomes and stolons, it just attaches real quickly and roots. If she wants to get rid of it, I would suggest, it's a hardy vine, and it's very aggressive, so the best thing to do is like to cut it or weed eat it down, and when the new shoots start coming up, hit it with a glyphosate or some non-selective.
Glyphosate, you can use triclopyr is something else you can use because it is woody.
Yeah.
So triclopyr works better or works best on woody, type plants.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend doing. Read and follow the label on that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't know of any other way.
Dig it up?
Yeah, except digging it up that you can possibly get rid of it because it will take over.
Yeah.
It will run on you pretty quick.
It's a nice, hardy ground cover.
That it is, that's for sure. All right, Lisa, we hope that helps you out. Here's our next viewer email. I want to prune the large oak tree on my property, but I am concerned about oak wilt. Is oak wilt something I should worry about when pruning? And this is Wayne from Bartlett, Tennessee. So the old oak wilt.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can understand his concern. If you read about oak wilt, it's in the spring, in cooler weather, that it is more susceptible for oak trees, and it gets both red and white oak trees.
That's right.
But I just recently had some of my oak trees pruned by a certified arborist, because I have large oaks too.
Right.
And I would suggest that if he's talking about large oaks, I would suggest he, get a certified arborist. But if you prune it,
if you prune it correctly, you don't have to worry about oak wilt.
No.
That's going to be the deal. So you have to prune it correctly at the right time. Thus, you don't have to worry about the wilt. Now, something else about the wilt is this. There's a beetle that's a vector for this fungus.
Yes.
Right? So if you don't prune it correctly, the beetle gets in there, it goes. Right? And it spreads the fungus. Right. So if it's a large oak, I would get a certified arborist to come in and do that. If not, prune correctly, the correct time of year, you should be fine. All right, thank you for that question, Mr. Wayne. Here's our next viewer email. This weed is covering my Irish garden. When I pull it, it comes out easily but no roots. It feels very sticky and the seeds stick to my clothes. What is it? It's Margie in Germantown, Tennessee. She's like, what is it? Couple of names, right?
Yeah,
Bet straw.
Catchweed.
Catchweed is what I know people
well, because it catches you. It's got those little barbs on it, and it takes a hold of animal fur and your clothing.
Pants, legs, and things like that. It has little spines on them for the most part. It's actually a winter annual weed.
Yeah, in the heat it'll go away.
Yeah, once it gets hot enough, it'll go away. It grows best in shade, light conditions, especially where there's a lot of moisture. But if you mow it enough, it'll go away. If it's hot enough, like it has been, it'll definitely go away. But it produces a lot of seeds.
Yeah.
300 to 400 seeds, one female plant, so that's a lot of seeds.
Yes.
So if you didn't get rid of it, it's coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
So make sure you have a thick stand of grass there. All right,
That's right.
That's your cultural practice, for the most part. So you don't have to worry about using any, herbicides, anything like that. Just a good stand of grass, we'll cover that for you because it does have a real shallow root system, so it can be easily, pulled up. And this is in an Irish garden, so you can just pull it up in your Irish garden. You should be fine.
Sure.
All right, so there you go, Miss Margie. Appreciate that question. The old catchweed, huh?
Catchweed.
All right. Here's our next viewer email. I like the picture on this one. This is pretty good. I have heavy clay soil and there is still water standing in a hole I dug on Sunday. I really want to plant azaleas. What should I do to make them live? A deeper hole with lots of amendments under the root ball or a really wide, shallow hole with amendments? Do I add back any clay? Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks. And this is Ms. Deb from Mount Juliet, Tennessee. So how about that?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions in here.
Yeah.
Because we saw that hole had a lot of water in it.
Oh yeah, and it reminds me of the front of WKNO here when we were planting.
That's right. That bad.
And you know what we did, and this is what, and
ahead,
I worry about the Japanese maple I saw also in the picture in the corner.
Okay.
Maples don't like to have wet roots in them either. So what we did here is we dug a hole and then we added more topsoil to it and we planted the plant half in the ground, half out of the ground and mounded up the plant. Now she doesn't want to dig a hole because she saw what happens when she dug a hole.
A lot of water in that hole too.
And if you dig a bigger hole to plant azaleas, even if you put amendments in it, you're creating a bigger bowl that water is going to sit in. So you don't want to do that. You want to go up. And having the mound of dirt around the plant is great. It has an area that it can get air and water movement, and it will live just fine. And I would suggest she does that with the maple also.
Okay. I think you're right about that. Yeah. I think you better. Yeah. I think you better plant it high, because here's the thing: azaleas don't like wet feet.
No, no.
So you definitely want. It's just like the Japanese maple. You have to be planted high.
And of course, I don't know the area. I mean, there might be an area she could make a whole big raised bed there, but she can't change the natural flow of water in that area.
Right.
You just got to watch that. And right. You can't tell that from the picture.
Right.
But whatever you do, go up, and not amend down.
Ms. Deb, go up, not down, right? Plant high, yeah.
Plant high.
Azaleas definitely don't like wet feet.
No.
All right, good picture. Thanks for that. Here's our next viewer email. Can I transplant wild blueberry plants from the woods to my garden? Thank you, Richard in Greenville, Tennessee. So what do you think about that?
I think it's great if he's got wild blueberries growing out in the woods. And I can understand him wanting to have it closer.
That, right. Yeah.
This is the key, the pH. Blueberry pH likes to be 4.5 to 5 or something like that. And so is the ground that he is going to be putting it in the same pH as the ground that he was taking the blueberry from?
That's a good question. Same one I have. Yeah. Right. That's probably the reason why I was growing there in the woods.
Yes.
You know, it probably liked the soil pH there, liked the habitat there, which is probably why it grew better there. But yeah, if you're going to try to transplant that.
And so I would get a soil test first and find out what's the soil test, what the pH is, where it's growing, and what the soil pH is in your area.
Right.
Well, then if it's not correct, you need to think a year ahead of time and change the pH of your soil to match where the pH is, where it is. And then when you do dig it up, you've got to give enough room to get all the roots, because blueberries do not like to be transplanted.
No. Transplant shock.
No,
yeah, because that's something else I thought about as well. Again, look where it's growing, and you're going to bring it up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it, Mr. Richards. Go ahead, do your homework.
Yeah, do a little more research and soil tests and
get your pH right.
Find out what's going on with both areas.
Right, because again, there's a reason why it's growing where it's growing. All right. Here's our next viewer email. There's a growth that's on my maple trees. Can you tell me what it is and how to treat it? And this is from Valerie. So we had a little discussion about this, right?
Yes,
I think it's that cork wing growth that you see on some of your trees, and then it just so happens that that tree has a secondary, cork cambium, which actually causes this eccentric growth. Is pretty much what it is. No need to treat it.
No. Nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it. If anything, it adds extra protection. So that's the way I look at it. So again, it's that cork wing growth. So I wouldn't do anything about that. It's just admire it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen to all species of trees. Just every once in a while it may happen, but it's nothing. That's going to be damaging that that tree or that cambium or anything like that. So that should be fine. Yeah. Just a unique characteristic.
Yeah, she may have a new variety of maple.
It may. Yeah. Just may. So there you have it, Valerie. Don't worry about it, okay? Looks good. All right, here's our next viewer email. Could you please tell us what is attacking our oak trees and what we may be able to do to help? And this is Rick and Valerie from Millington, Tennessee.
Yes.
Out in your neck of the woods,
out
right?
My area, sure. Oak leaf blister.
That's what I thought that was. That's right.
It usually occurs in the cool spring weather. And only on new growth.
New growth.
And it's going to spore and set spores that'll land on the new growth next year. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Some years will be worse than others, but it really doesn't hurt the tree.
No.
Because it's only on the really new growth.
Yeah.
And the tree can still produce chlorophyll. Yeah. It's not going to hurt it any.
Just looks bad.
It looks kind of bad, yeah.
But other than that, no. But you said it right. It's the cool, wet spring. There we go again.
And we've had an unusually cool, wet spring.
We sure have.
So.
Right. So that's pretty much it. Again, just looks bad,
It does.
But yeah, I wouldn't worry about trying to get out there and spray it or anything like that. If any of those leaves do fall down, practice good sanitation. Get those up because they do contain fungal spores.
That'd be the main thing, is to make sure the leaves are picked up in the fall.
Yeah, practice good sanitation. All right, well, thank you for that question. All right. Here's our next viewer email. What are these on my onions? And this is Moriel in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Ah. So what did you think that was?
Aphids.
Aphids.
Yes. But you know, I wouldn't worry about them. You can wash them off. And aphids are a delicacy for so many different bugs. The Mother Nature is going to take care of that in no time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about it.
I wouldn't worry about it. It's just almost an aphid species for every plant that's out there,
yeah.
it seems like.
All different colors.
Oh, yeah, all different colors, because these are actually a little darker.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, piercing, sucking mouth parts, of course. You know,
Right.
they're feeding on plant sap. Yeah. Get the hose out.
Hose out, wash
Yeah,
them off.
Wash them off. You'll be fine. There are some other products you can use, insecticidal soaps and things like
Yeah.
that. Read and follow the label. But I think if you get, just get the hose out, knock them off, that'd be fine.
I think so too.
That'd be fine. All right,
Yep.
Joellen, how about that?
That's great.
That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you much for being here.
Thanks.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you would like more information on any of the plants Joellen planted or any of the questions we answered, go to familyplotgarden.com. While you're there, don't forget to ask us your garden question. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.